Good morning, Dan and Amy. You know this song?
Dun, dun. It says 80s song.
Yes.
Give me
of
a
course.
second. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, come on. Help.
I'm going to say it's No More Words by Berlin.
Yeah, no more words, no more promises.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I was going to sing it.
So here's another school you can cross off the list for Peyton and Eli, Amy. It's Brown University. Obviously, you're not going to be able to send them to any Ivy League school because it's beneath them.
Yeah, I thought this story was too disgusting to discuss, Dan.
It's beneath them at an exorbitant price, but there are some benefits. Brown University is welcoming students back this year by putting free tampons in dozens of bathrooms, including those for men.
Tampons and maxi pads. Don't forget the maxi pads. Everyone forgets those little Barbie doll beds.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's what I used to call
You
them.
could be a consultant to Brown and
Yeah,
other
but,
Ivy League schools.
As somebody who had to buy products and spend tens of thousands of dollars, now they're handing it out free in men's washrooms. You don't need them in men's washrooms. They are not toys.
Yes.
And what about the candy machines in the women's washroom?
This is where you're mistaken. And let me cite Viet Ninh. Nguyen?
Excuse me.
Viet Ninh, right?
Vietnam?
No, this is the student body president Brown. His first name is Viet, and it's
Viet.
It's Nguyen. How do you say that again? Nguyen?
Sure. Yes.
Something like that.
That's perfect.
I'm not purposely mispronouncing.
No, I know you're not.
He said, we wanted to set a tone of trans inclusivity and not forget that they're an important part of the population. Yeah.
They don't.
Trans
even if you have
inclusivity.
the
Inclusivity.
switch, even if men have the switch, they still don't have
Oh.
that, if you know what I mean. That is not humanly possible.
What if you think you're having it?
Menstruating and
Because you can just think it and then you become it. You just think something and it happens.
you know what I would do? I'd go in and steal them out of there
Well,
because that's what I'd feel like
maybe
doing.
you
or maybe
can-
I'm going to borrow some.
you can return to Brown University for some advanced coursework. For more on the state of academia and whether or not
Free
we should close most of the colleges, universities in this country, we're happy to be joined again by Peter Wood. He is the president of the National Association of Scholars. Peter, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And so we do these stories routinely on this show, kind of campus watch updates, and it's just one school after the other. At North Carolina, or it was at Duke. There's a safe room for those suffering from the impact of microaggressions. At Clemson, you can't pray on campus except in designated free speech zones. You heard our little story about Brown, and it's an endless stream with very few exceptions, and most of those exceptions happen to be schools that have some kind of affiliation with Christianity. And so I just wonder, where does this train end in terms of the culture on campuses in America?
Well, the end of it appears to be that we lock each student into an identity group that has to be protected from any criticism, insult, or even mention in some cases. So we're busy taking the United States and turning it into this collection of mutually hostile subgroups. The model for it, of course, was initially black students, but it has now become a way of segregating students into identity groups that you never heard of, including the transgender groups and so on. The terminus of it, I think, is either creating a situation where it's impossible to educate anybody, and the universities just rule themselves out of existence that way, or we get a sensible reaction to this and say, enough is enough, and we close the door to trying to teach people that college is all about claiming your identity, and rather teach them that college is about learning something real.
And I mean, just on that whole identity group issue, I mean, to the extent it's taken, when I was an undergrad at Northwestern, we had FMO, for members only, which was a black student group. You have, black fraternities and sororities. Okay, fine. But at Cal State LA campus, they're literally doing segregated housing. So it's de facto, of course, but blacks in one dorm, blacks only in one dorm. I mean, isn't this contra to the civil rights movement and the move for immigration and the and Brown v. Board and all of the decisions that were to upend de jure segregation, de jure discrimination? Now we're voluntarily going back in that direction. It's absurd.
Yes, it's a rather bizarre 180-degree turn from the desire to see people integrated into a single society to this neo-segregation in which groups are encouraged to see themselves as incapable of getting along with each other, absent separate spaces. And what happened at Cal State is just the tip of an iceberg. This is happening all over the country, where colleges are setting up segregated dorms, often on a voluntary basis, but with a lot of encouragement. I mean, there's separate student orientation, separate graduation, and to a fair degree, separate classes, and students get ghettoized into identity studies tracks. So it's happening. We are in the midst of resegregating America via college campuses.
But Mr. Wood, how did we get here? I mean, what started this all, and who came up with the safe spaces?
The safe spaces comes out of the campus feminism of a particular variety, which took the view that patriarchy is so pervasive and so destructive that women needed to be granted a space free from any taint of male domination. That idea then got taken up by others on the political left and extended into the ethnic areas. So we now find it applied, first of all, on sexual identity, and then second to the various ethnic groups that claim that they're too fragile and too prone to being oppressed to be allowed to mix freely with other people or have other people mix with them. It's connected also with the idea of cultural appropriation, which is that anybody else does what my group thinks it originated is an offense and an insult, and therefore part of safe space is being kept clear of any evidence that others are imitating your cultural practices.
In an interview that Boston University professor emeritus Angelo Codavia gave to National Review Online, actually conducted by the founding producer of Fireline, Neil Freeman, he was asked about kind of the rather sad state of American culture and what's the way back if there is one. And Codavia said, "I answer with an educator's prejudice. Our troubles are rooted in the progressive monopoly of the graduate schools, where the teachers of the teachers are taught. Breaking it from the top is the work of politics. Breaking it from below is happening whenever a family opts for homeschooling or community downsizes school districts or institutes charter schools." Do you agree with that assessment, and particularly breaking it from the top, the progressive monopoly in graduate schools? Is that possible?
Yes, it is. I know Angelo very well, and I respect his opinions. He's putting his finger at least on one of the major sources of this. The progressive monopoly has particular power, I would say, in schools of education, which are producing the teachers who prep the students who arrive at college to already define themselves by their grievances. So, yes, but that progressive monopoly now extends into virtually all the other disciplines as well. So it is a major source. I wouldn't say it's the only one. There's a kind of good feedback loop going on now between teaching students to define themselves by grievance and their sense of being oppressed, and the politics of campus. Why is it that by far the most popular political candidate of the current presidential season was Bernie Sanders on college campuses, the man who speaks to most profoundly the "I hate America, you are oppressed" sensibility, is echoing it back to the students. So we're not just getting this from the intellectual elite in the graduate schools, but it's entered into the broader cultural and political discussion and is reinforcing it.
He is Peter Wood. He's president of the National Association of Scholars. You should check out the National Association of Scholars because it's one of the few groups kind of holding up the flag for real academic freedom on college campuses. The idea that college campuses truly should be free marketplaces of ideas rather than these totalitarian re-education camps. Peter Wood, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's